Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar today titled Inbound Marketing Advanced Tactics to Take Your School to the Pro Level, presented by HEM. If you're new to HEM, we're a full service digital marketing company that focuses exclusively on the education sector. We help with colleges, universities, private language schools, career colleges, you name it, all school types around the world in multiple languages. I'm Archie Pollock, the Regional Manager for the UK and Europe, and I'm joined today by Scott Cross, who's the North America Regional Manager for HEM. Hello, Scott.
Hi, Archie. Hi, everybody.
So we're going to have the microphones on mute today. Obviously, this allows us to cover a lot of ground during the webinar, and then around about the half an hour mark or 35 minutes, we'll have some time for some questions. And if you have any questions throughout the session, feel free in the GoToWebinar menu at the side of your screen. You can ask questions there, and then we'll come around to it at the end of the webinar. And just a note as well, for everyone who's registered and who can't even attend today, there will be the presentation sent out along with the deck of slides in the next day or so via email. So if you have to jump off for whatever reason, don't worry, you'll receive a recording of the session. Okay, without further ado, shall we kick off, Scott? You want to start?
Yeah, let's get started. And we want to begin by just walking through what we're going to cover in today's presentation. We're going to start by looking at the basics of inbound marketing. We'll define the basics versus advanced in many cases across the webinar, because ultimately we want to cover the professional approach to planning, to timing, and to creating inbound content.
Yeah, and we'll take it a step further there and talk about inbound marketing and how it's intertwined with SEO. We'll also discuss how the website plays a pivotal role in converting traffic into leads. And we'll also talk about areas like keywords and how to use keywords in your content, as well as comparing your school as it stands to others. And then lastly, we'll look at some of the measurement tools and metrics that are available to help you gauge the efficacy of all these efforts and track progress.
So let's begin with looking at the basics of inbound marketing. When people search using keywords on a search engine like Google, Google's going to match those keywords to what it believes to be the most relevant web pages in its index. We're trying through inbound marketing to have the audience click on that link in the search results to come inbound to our website. So inbound marketing is that methodology to appear more relevant to Google and thus appearing higher in its search results. Once people find your website, there's another element of inbound marketing. You have them in your house and you want to do your best to ensure that the information and the web pages naturally lead people toward the next page, the next stage. Perhaps it's downloading information. Maybe it's signing up for an open day. So inbound has to do with making sure the content of that web page is relevant and useful to your audience in a style and tone of content that's relevant and consistent with your brand, with your school, and includes calls to action on the page that will engage them, as well as putting out calls to action across social media and email. So at the foundational level, inbound marketing is the practice of creating all this content on the website, sending out the posts, and really trying to drive people inbound to the website and providing them a worthwhile experience so they come back time and again and again.
Yeah, and all of these actions really that you've mentioned, Scott, these all combine to achieve a foundation of a solid kind of holistic inbound marketing strategy. And as you can see on the diagram, it's the research and it's the implementation of various elements which produces that larger impact. And focusing on just one or two of these aspects will give some impact, will influence your SEO in some ways, but not in that overall approach, or not as well as that overall approach might. And absolutely, it can be time consuming. It takes a great deal of effort to take on inbound marketing in the right way. And it's very demanding for staff in terms of organization and man hours. But it does mean that those who work on it in the right way and they assign the right resources and dedicate the right organization to it are rewarded for doing so. And those who take that temporary focus or that shifting focus towards their inbound marketing activities don't get the same kind of impact that those who take the more organized approach do. And I want to start by highlighting a few areas which are really important to consider when you're trying to understand the best opportunities for growth with regard to your current online presence. So where are you at the moment, and where might we grow into, as well as where do we want to be in the future in terms of our future digital marketing activities. So it makes sense to start with a few questions. The first one, I guess, would be why. Why do we want to improve our digital marketing presence? What are our key motivations? What kind of objectives should we establish at this stage? What are we looking to achieve? And from there, we can take a step back and we can take a look at where we stand currently and how far are we from those desired outcomes. It could be enrollment, it could be some kind of analytical goals that you have. It depends on what you're familiar with and where you are at the moment. And what are we doing at the moment that's already working for us? Are we blogging effectively? Are we frequently updating our social media channels? Are we reviewing our website from a visitor's perspective? So all of these things should be considered, as well as, what are your competitors doing? Can you get any inspiration from some of your rivals? Are they, suggesting stuff to you that could be used in terms of best practice? And there's lots of different possible objectives in digital marketing, and there's even more ways, arguably, to gauge how successful those initiatives have been. And in this kind of gumball diagram, you can see each gumball has a factor that might be worthwhile tracking or something that you might consider. So you might want to promote a specific program or course at a certain time of the year, or you might want to improve your general brand awareness, or you might even want to improve the website engagement. But really, in any case, it's important to define in advance what you're looking to achieve as an outcome from all of these activities. Because trying to do all of them, like I said, trying to do all of these bases, cover all these bases, can be a pretty large task. And that's especially true if you're coming from a standing start.
And Archie, I love the gumball diagram.
You do love the gumball diagram, Scott. You do.
Also, it just totally reminds me of, when you see gumballs, you don't just want one, you want them all. And how perfect is that in this case? Because typically when you list all these objectives, you want to achieve them all. But it's difficult to make a choice. And the other point is you only have so many coins in your pocket. So you can only have 1 or 2 or 3 gumballs that are in your budget, so to speak. So it really helps to bring that across, and it's very relevant, and it makes me a little hungry for gumballs. Okay, so once we've defined your objectives and you've decided how you're going to gauge success, then you're going to focus on evaluating your current situation with those success parameters in mind. We're going to go through 4 of these elements here while we look at self-evaluation. We're going to focus on the quality of your website content and also the user experience. We're going to look at content marketing. So what is the content of your page, the blogging content, and your social media content? How does it measure up to what your user expectations are? At what point do you want to engage social media marketing? So kind of taking it beyond just placing things on your own platforms, but sharing them beyond. And then, of course, we're going to talk about that competitor analysis that Archie had mentioned. So let's start by looking at your own user experience. It has a large influence on how well you're able to generate inquiries and applications online. So that's something we want to make a point of. Your website needs to be considered a marketing tool. Yes, it's very important for your existing community to love it, to really kind of embrace it, to go there often, to get information and see photos. But it's really important as a tool to generate marketing traffic. So you want to understand and really kind of evaluate, is our site informative and useful? Is it easy for visitors to find what they're looking for? Is the template, is the design clear? And are we inviting them to action? We show this example because we feel this example is one of many, right? That does a really good job. It makes it quite clear. You have multiple options of things to click to learn more about. You have calls to action, to inquire, to donate or apply. You can hop in and take a tour. So it provides you lots of next stages. It's visually quite digestible. So this is kind of what you want to do with your website on the home page. And now let's look at maybe those secondary pages. When you click to look at course listings, is it in a nice, simple, hyperlinked list? Or are there graphics here that could help? But lists make your web content super digestible and easy to scan for the user. And then when they click on one of those links, does it take them to just some simple points about that program? Bullet points are very useful here because, again, they make it easy to scan and digest the content. So you also want to provide a call to action this deep in the course information page so that they can click if they're thinking, okay, so I like this, what do I do now? We want to give you an example of, on the left, a web design that's visually appealing, right? It's got images, it's got short bursts of content, it's got lists and hyperlinks. So this is something I can pick apart with my eyes, and I'm fine to just kind of cruise through this. Whereas on the right, this is the result of teamwork. Lots of people saying what they require to be on a page of the website. And it ends up being a brick of gray, and it's not appealing. And it's not the kind of thing, it's the kind of page actually that people are going to look at and go, yeah, no, I'm not going to read through this. So do that self-evaluation. You can tell a lot of this on your own judgment, really. And when it comes to analytics, there are some numbers that can tell this story for you as well. If you go into the audience report and click on overview, look at pages per session. So you want to try to get this as high as 3 or more, because if you're at 3 or more, it means people are relatively engaged in your website. They're finding their way from 1 to 2 to 3 or more pages quite easily. Average session duration is also important, and we'd love to see that be 2 minutes or more. And bounce rate is one that a lot of people bring up. 71% may seem high, but keep in mind, the more active you are at inviting new visitors to your website, statistically, you're going to have more people bounce out. So the bounce rate is when someone comes to your website and leaves without taking an action within 30 seconds. So they've hopped in and they think, nah, that's not for me. But again, because you're really going forward with inbound marketing, you're going to invite so many new people that that's bound to go up. So don't be worried about a 60, 70% bounce rate. And then when you go into this other report in analytics and behavior flow, it's another great measure of looking at where is the majority of traffic starting on our website. And when the page is just that little dash, that means it's your home page. Okay, where do they most often go from there? And then where do they most often go from there? You're able to look at kind of the thickest chunks of counts. And so you're able to see what is the typical flow of the journey of someone through your website. It also tells you how many people drop off at the first page, at the second page, at the third page. And this is a good indication of a page that maybe isn't as well formatted or as user-friendly as you'd like. So keep in mind, a couple of Google Analytics reports can help you diagnose your user experience.
It's a good point you made there, Scott, because you can have sometimes just 1 or 2 pages in that journey that aren't well set up or aren't strong in terms of the user journey, and it can be a bit of a trapdoor for people, and they think, this is confusing, I'm out, and it's that report you showed there with the behavior flow is really a useful tool to understand that journey. And in terms of where do we want people to spend their time on our website, well, in conjunction with what Scott was saying, course pages, program pages, there's your page content. So you also have, of course, your home page and the course pages there. But don't forget the blog. The blog is really a pivotal piece of inbound marketing in your ability to not just attract more visitors, but also retain their attention as well. And over time, it also has that secondary effect of building your SEO visibility. So between these two options of building SEO visibility and engaging the more traffic that comes, it's really a strong methodology. And what you want to create here is content that's accessible and convenient, and having it all under one place in the blog is really helpful for the visitor. So really the key theme for a blog essentially is, why would this visitor want to study here? And that's the kind of message you're trying to put across. And as you build your blog portfolio over time, like you can see on the screen example here, this starts to build up a useful resource for people to come to and to, join the dots for them and help them to understand what it is that you offer, show that you understand their concerns, and move them forward into that journey, and hopefully inquire with you or take some further action. And these blogs, they can come from different staff members, teachers, they can come from current students, former students, and that's all really helpful in offering context, how it is to be on campus and how it is to live in that area, for example. However, there should always be a core of content that's focused on explaining to the prospective student why what you offer is relevant to them. And this is something that we see schools often forget, and the result can be that you have content and plenty of it, but it's ineffective at engaging the visitors and encouraging them to take that next step and inquire with the school. And if we look on the example here, you look through a blog or some page content. When you look through your own, can you honestly say that the text in front of you is relevant to the reader? And I've seen cases, you probably have too, Scott, where you talk to the school about their blog and they've been blogging about the local cuisine, or they mention the nightlife surrounding the campus. And of course, that that's all got its place. That's all relevant to some degree. But generally speaking, it doesn't help people find you via search engines. These aren't keywords that people are searching for. And it's important to keep that in your mind when you're creating such content. Is it helpful to the student? Is it helpful to the search engine? Because you should ideally be addressing both. And I've zoomed in on this example on a blog, not for any particular reason other than it's a good example of showing where the relevant keywords are littered through the content itself to match what people might search for on a search engine. So platforms like Google, they're trying to understand what's on a page, and if you have key search terms throughout your content, it will raise that to Google and show that this is a page that's relevant to the search engine query. So our team, you may well know, develops content for our clients, and that the clients can then post that on their website and on their social channels. So I just wanted to throw a few quick tips from HEM's own team with regard to the pain of creating content, because it can be painful. There's no hiding from it. It can be difficult, and particularly that's the case when you're trying to kind of infuse keywords into the text as well. But once you've defined the keywords that you want to use through discussion with your colleagues or just having a bit of a brainstorm, you can start to create some kind of topic headlines that you want to write about. So once you've written these headlines, then put the keyword list away and try to write naturally, organically about the subject at hand. Then once you've completed writing that document or writing that article, you come back to it and you compare your list of keywords and see, is there a way that you can maybe switch a few words around just to kind of shoehorn in some of these key search terms that the audience might actually be searching for. So you're trying to be as relevant as possible, again, not just to the audience, but to the search engine. So that's at that point you're trying to get these keywords in without falling for the trap of keyword stuffing, which kind of goes to the other end of the spectrum, where you're introducing keywords for the sake of it, which if done frequently and over time especially would actually work against you and backfire in terms of your SEO. So I hope that's all clear. And I want to cover just one more area about keywords. And there's an important differentiation here between branded and non-branded keywords. So as you can see in the screen, branded keywords are queries which include your brand name or variations of your brand name, as well as terms that are specific to the school, like the location. On the other hand, in the pink area, non-branded keywords are queries which people might use to find you, but don't include the brand name at all, but they do match what you offer. And a lot of schools are guilty of missing this non-branded keyword opportunity. And yep, it's absolutely great if you're, I don't know, London School of Economics or LSE, and those are coming up in your search terms, or that's what you're being found for. That's fantastic. But there's a lot of opportunity there for the non-branded side. So depending on which education subsector you're in, let's say, for example, it was English language school in London is a non-branded term to search for, or MBA course in Switzerland might be another example. These are non-branded search terms, and these are terms that you can work on your content to be more visible towards. And of course, this differs per school. It depends on your existing brand awareness levels. I'm aware of that. But just to put that into your mind, think about this when you're creating your keyword research or keyword lists that you want to be more visible for. If you have Google Search Console enabled through your analytics, that's a very strong way to understand where you are at the moment. If you're not sure about what that is and you want to understand it in more detail, give us a shout. We're happy to talk about that, Scott and I. So just let us know.
Yeah, right on. As you know, in our HEM webinars, we like to have, to ask you some questions, and we periodically throw some polls in here. So based on what we've discussed so far, we'd like to know, how do you measure up? Do you define your objectives and opportunities? Do you measure website quality and user experience? And do you research your keywords? So let us know if you feel you're ready, like you're on it and all is good. You can just click and vote. If you're almost there, you're working on it, or if maybe you haven't gone there yet and need some work, please click and let us know. And the votes are coming in. Oh yeah, this is good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show the results here. And interestingly, none of you say ready. Am I right there? Yeah. Wow. So
okay.
That's,
we appreciate the candor, honesty.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We really expected a lot to be almost there. But yeah, well, that's just it. And we're glad you're here for that very reason, because that's hopefully we can help here. So we want to move ahead to look at content creation with the idea of scheduling it, and scheduling it all year long is what we're recommending, because we want to ensure that you reach your audience on their schedule, not yours. What we mean by that, at the bottom you see the enrollment timeline has its peaks and valleys, right? Our school year naturally, and these may not be the actual peaks by date for you, but it's cyclical, right? And we have our busier times of enrollment and our less busy times. But notice that the content line stays consistent, that we're constantly, like, one blog a month, for example, and we don't just drop off in June because nobody's paying attention. Because keep in mind, their user journey, their prospective student journey from awareness to enrollment may begin at any time. It's not necessarily going to begin on our cycle. It's going to begin on theirs. And you want to be visible at that time, whether it's through blogs or social media. So keep that in mind. That's an important thing to try to create that consistent flow.
Yeah, and I think one of the key criteria for a successful inbound marketing strategy is organization. And creating a content calendar is one of the kind of keystones of that. So talking about the planning and the assigning of tasks to, for in this case on the screen, it's about planning and writing blogs. It doesn't have to be, complicated or convoluted. It can take a very simplistic form. It's more about the organization and assigning the tasks to different people. So what this means is, we have the proposed date of the blog, we have the blog title, and we have the keywords, the general keywords that we're aiming towards within that piece of content. And this means that different team members can be assigned at different times, so the responsibility is fairly distributed. It allows you to track the topics that have already been covered recently and allow you to plan what's coming next. And then you can assign those keywords and use a kind of calendar to outline the content for each blog coming up. So it has multiple benefits, and it's a very straightforward thing when you think about it, but very few schools actually do it. And it's, as you can see, it doesn't have to be complicated. And it avoids this problem that you probably have it as much as I do, Scott, when you talk to a school and they talk about the blogging and it's supposed to be, Simon does the blog on a Friday, but the reality is that, other priorities come up, or Simon takes a day off and it doesn't happen, and it
happens
gets pushed
all
back
the time.
All the time, absolutely. Probably the majority of times from people I speak to. And it prevents that scenario to some degree because it assigns responsibility and it gives some kind of some kind of onus on an individual, and it's tracked and it's fair, and that's really what you want to achieve, something that's manageable for the team. that's a key component of the inbound marketing. And if we talk about different types of content in terms of what is it that schools normally post and where might they sometimes miss the mark, it's really important to use your blog and also your social media more than just a communication device. So you can see on your screen, there's the basic type of information. So basic news, how is the school doing in the rankings? How is the football team doing? Is the school closed for snow? If you're in the UK, it may well be at the moment. And anything else that's keeping people up to date, that's all well and good. However, if we want to talk about that student journey, we have to take the next step. And if we talk about advanced content, so this is where we talk about things that are designed, or content that's designed to convince people and persuade them to take a next step and inquire with you, having read your blog and read your social media posts. So it's about taking that next step in terms of student success stories. What's it like in class, in and out of class, extracurricular activities? Why is a certain program? It could be an MBA, it could be an English course, it could be particular boarding school options that you have. What is it that's special and unique about your school that you should be shouting out about? That's really what the difference is between that news update versus taking that next step and really understanding who it is you're trying to reach and providing them with relevant information.
And that's a perfect segue into who we're trying to reach, finding relevant information to them. We suggest that you use the tool of building audience personas, which is basically researching who are the most likely types of people who will be attracted to your program and likely enroll. And basically just think about who are those types of people. You know that based on your past 5 or 10 years of students coming through. And what you want to do is learn more about not just their background, but also their motivations, their challenges, their pain points. So we're going to provide you a couple of sample screens of sections of student personas. First of all, we recommend, you may have more than one, right, as we've said, and we recommend you title them as the avid online learner, for example, and we recommend you name them as well, because as you get to know each persona and really begin to define them, it really helps at the offset, like when you begin to do this. We want you, though, in 6 or 8 months, when you're sitting in the office and shooting around new ideas of ways to generate interest, content creation, that type of thing, I want someone in the conversation to say, yeah, but would that resonate with Anna? And everyone would know what you mean, right? So by calling her Anna, the avid online learner, you really get to attach that understanding. And again, we're going to start with their background, which has to do with, geography, age, education, perhaps, and we're going to go deeper.
Yeah, that's it, Scott. So you take that initial few smatterings of information, you take it a step further and you think, what is it that would actually motivate Anna to choose us as a provider of education? In this case, it might be that they're looking to improve their English. They might want a school with a strong reputation. It really depends on where they are in the world, why they're coming to you, why they might be interested in you, and you want to show them and highlight your specific offerings that you have that would really help Anna to move along that journey and take a next step and speak to you directly. So we need to do that. We need to understand her motivations. And taking it one step further, we also want to understand her concerns. So what is it that would act as a kind of obstacle to Anna in taking that final step and purchasing a course from you? Maybe it's about studying online. Maybe she doesn't feel she would have the self-discipline to do so. Is there a way that you can help to assuage those concerns and make her feel that this is something that a lot of people do? The teachers are very interactive and happy to help, and we have quick response times to any queries. These are the kind of things that if you have these kind of offerings, you want to be pushing that forward to help people like Anna take that next step. So from the key message, we want to build key messages from these motivations and concerns, and we've learned from the background information, we build these key messages. There could be many of them for each Anna, for every for every person that you have there, for every persona, there could be multiple key messages. There could be 5, there could be 20. There's no real upper limit. It really is until you feel you've covered the ground there. But what we want to do is take those motivations and concerns and distill them into these key messages, address the concerns, motivate the person to take a next step, and that's really the foundation for your content marketing strategy moving forward.
And so now we want to show you the foundational content sharing model for blogging, for example. So if you're publishing your blog content on your website, you then should be sharing it across multiple channels through posts that link them back to the blog, back to your house. Notice we also write each post a little differently because Facebook has a different voice and audience than LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has a different audience than Twitter, for example. Keep in mind also, if you share this once, you're not done. The following week, share it on a different day on that same platform, but maybe at a different time, because people may have not seen your most recent post. So you don't just share it once and you're done. Share it multiple times, and maybe also share it in your e-newsletter or in an email. You want to use this asset, which is your blog, as many ways as you can, because it's really using it to all that it's worth. You spent a lot of time to put it together. And keep in mind that when you post on the left to your followers, it's going to folks who already know you, right? Which is great. They may share it. But you also have the option, and this is a great next step to do, to boost that post, basically to advertise it, to put money behind it, so that it shares to a whole nother audience on that same platform. And what you would do is build a lookalike audience. And that is taking all the demographics and parameters of your existing followers, their interests, their likes, the kinds of pages they follow, and basically copying all those attributes in another audience in that same geographic area that aren't currently your followers. And therefore you're spending a little money, but gaining a lot more exposure to 5 or 10 or 20,000 more people who may be very like-minded. So that's a great next step to turn it up a notch.
Yeah, I think it's time for poll 2. And the question this time is, how many of these 3 things below does your inbound marketing achieve? So creating continuous content, having a content calendar, and writing really to showcase your school and its unique offering. So of those 3, how many do you do this? Creating continuous content, content calendar, and writing to showcase your school.
So the votes are coming in fast and furious. As always, thank you for engaging, for voting. We appreciate that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share our results,
Okay.
which show, yeah, a little more in the middle there, right?
Yeah, well, that's good to see, and yeah, I mean, I guess that's to be expected. I wouldn't have expected that many people to be doing all 3 of these things, but clearly there's a few in there, which is nice to see. And again, those of you who are maybe at the beginning of this journey, it's great that you're here, and we hope that we're helping you out with this task.
Yeah, and if you're doing all 3, that's pretty great.
It is, yeah. Okay, so we're kind of coming to the last section here of the webinar, and just as a reminder, if you've got any questions that you want to ask us, now is the time to put them into the chat, and we'll address them probably in about 5 minutes when we're wrapping up. So when it comes to understanding the results from all of these efforts that you're doing or going to do, you want to understand the efficacy of all the different efforts from different staff members, the thought process. How is it really impacting? So one of the best ways to do that is to look at your Google Analytics. So hopefully you have that installed, and you want to understand the different channels that are commonly found in Google Analytics. So you can see on the screen here, I've gone to acquisition, I've gone to channels, and that provides this report which I've zoomed in on into the bottom right corner. So you can see organic, direct email, and so on. And these are really the fundamental channels of Google Analytics. And it's important to know what these mean. If you don't know what it means, then do a bit of research on it, I would advise. I'm not going to go through them all in detail today, just for time purposes. But Inbound marketing is a methodology that covers multiple channels, whereas you might think of other avenues such as paid advertising, which would be one channel. It's a multi-channel approach through inbound marketing. So looking at this report is really essential. And what you might want to do is, if you look to the top right section, choose a sensible time frame. So in this example, we've chosen 1 month. And then what we could do in this case is, 3 months, January to March. And what we could do is, to give ourselves a fair comparison, is if we go to the next slide, we can choose to compare that to the previous year. So we can select that time and compare it to the previous year, because if you compare January to July, you're going to have naturally different periods where you have more traffic and less traffic throughout the year. That's just the seasonality of the education industry. So it's wise to compare year on year to get a fair understanding of how things have developed. And on this same slide here, you can also see I've highlighted this box called goal conversion rate and another box next to it called goal completions. So these sound very similar, and they are similar in some ways, but they have different meanings. And what we're actually tracking here are goals. And goals are to be found, I think, Scott, you'll talk about it in a moment, but goals are really indicative of the actions and the engagement of people who are coming to the website, rather than just talking about raw numbers. Do you want to talk about goals, Scott, for a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, they're different for every single website. So you can customize your goals to your website. Your website has 5 or 8 clicks within the website that are indicative of a truly interested prospective student. It's the call now, or download the brochure, or apply now. Those kinds of actions, or even visiting the admissions page, you could set as a goal, because it's the kind of thing someone would do if they're really interested to learn more about attending. And so that's why this is so useful, because it helps you understand not only that email drove a whole lot of traffic toward us, but the folks who came from email clicked on a lot of those really important clicks for us. And the way that you can set that up, we'll just show this really quickly. It's not really the complete how-to session, but if in your Google Analytics, go to the bottom left gear icon, which is the administration icon, and on the far right choice, when it provides that big admin menu, click on goals, which we've highlighted, and then you're able to see maybe there are goals already set up. In this case, a goal is set up for PPC lead, which you can set that up as well, especially if a pay-per-click ad campaign sends someone to your website or to a page that lives on your website, like a landing page. And if they fill out the form and click submit, they would then see a thank you page. And as you can see, that's the page that triggers the goal. That means that they've filled out that form. And consider, it doesn't have to be a pay-per-click, an ad campaign that you track. As we've said, it could be any page, any URL in that destination for the goal details in the center there. Or if they fill out a form, the contact us form, that click submit and then sends them a thank you page, that just confirms that you got their information. A member of our team will be right with you. And you're also able then to measure if they clicked on it as a goal. So hope that's helpful for you.
Yeah, and that gives us just time for one last poll. And the last question is, how many of you are consistently measuring your inbound marketing performance in some way? That could be through analytics, it could be through other analytical tools that you have, but just generally, how many of you are consistently measuring your inbound marketing performance? Is it consistently, periodically, or well, let's not really talk about it.
And this can typically be the hardest part, because it's one thing to get the whole machine rolling, and then you have to go, wow, now you're asking me to measure all this. Yeesh.
Yeah, so and there's a lot to pick apart as well. Yep, okay.
No,
Similar to the last poll. Yeah, it's quite reflective.
It's good to see. It's good to see, because again, it's a hard task to get this started. So good to see that many of you are already there.
Okay. Great, so we've got a conclusion there on the screen, just a list of some of the points we've discussed today. We hope you found it useful, and we're happy to take any questions that we have now.
It's a good time to remind folks you'll receive a recording of this webinar and the slide decks in a couple of days via email, so you can look through this conclusion slide on your time. Feel free.
Okay, so question here that says, how often should we be blogging and social posting? Which is a great question, because it's one of the ones that we get almost most common, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's no real direct answer. If you look around the internet, you'll get different opinions on how often you should be posting. Let's say blogging as one example. How often should we be blogging? Should it be every day? Should it be every week, every month? It really, the true answer is dependent on your staff. What kind of resources do you have? If you're a one-man band in the marketing team, there's absolutely no way you're going to be able to blog every couple of days. It's just not possible. So it's really about establishing reasonable goals. It's better to write high quality content that you can share across your channels, your social media, and have people interact and engage with good content, rather than just posting, let's say less quality content more frequently. So quality is key. So focus on that and do it as often as you can. And the same goes for social posting as well. Just posting nonsense every day on social media isn't helpful. It's really about trying to engage with people. And if people, one of the SEO factors is also engagement. So if you have highly engaged content or people that engage with it very often, then that's going to signify to Google that this is a worthwhile resource in line with the keyword search.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with everything you've said there. That's right on. Another key question that we got here is, if I could start with one thing, what should I do first? And that's a great question. We'll assume that you're just working within your own means, within your own team. Because if you were able to hire out folks, then we'd try to tackle multiple things at once. But if you could start with one thing, I think it would be kind of going back to just what Archie said. Try to just begin to write some content with intent that it's visible to a prospective student on both social media and on blogging. You can, when you have more time or more resources, you can do persona research, but you're going to know kind of inherently in having worked at the school for a time, you're going to know what's going to be relevant for them. But once you have more time, do the persona research, and then do the website UX, so the user experience research, and understand your goals, and is it all of those elements that are kind of the deeper steps. But the first important step is just to create valuable content that's relevant to prospective students.
Great. Okay, shall we wrap up, Scott? Just
I want to make a quick plug for our next webinar. It's going to be March 24th, and the topic will be critical KPIs to measure your school's digital marketing success. So if you're probably on our mailing list, we'll send you more information about that.
Great. Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming along today. We hope it's been useful to you. If there's any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me via phone or email. And we look forward to talking soon. So thanks again to everyone for joining.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good afternoon.